Today I am coming at you with 12 questions you need to be asking your potential host family while you're on your first Skype interview. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Now, I know the first Skype meeting can be super overwhelming and super nerve-wracking, and you want to be on your best behavior and make sure you make a good first impression, and sometimes you can be a little nervous not to say anything or maybe ask a question that you really want to know the answer to because you don't want to make them uncomfortable and you really want them to like you, and I completely understand. But don't be afraid to ask the important questions because it is so essential to making sure that everyone is on the same page and both parties know what to expect from each other before you move in together. So the first question you need to ask them is, why do they want an au pair? This is a very important question to ask families because a lot of families want a nanny, but they hire an au pair. By asking this question, it allows families to express exactly what they're looking for and what their expectations are, and it allows you to kind of weed out the bad families who are maybe just looking for someone to take advantage of or want cheap labor from someone that they know they won't have to pay very much. Also, some families don't know the difference between a nanny and an au pair, so it's important to ask this question because you can kind of see what they're expecting to get out of the end of the deal as well. Are they looking for someone to take care of their kids 40 hours a week and clean the house, do the cooking, or are they looking for someone to be part of the family, to help out part-time, to come in, learn the language, learn the culture, and to teach the family their culture? So asking this question really gives you a good idea of what exactly they're looking for and if it matches what you're looking for in a family. Second question you should be asking is, what is my daily routine? What do my daily tasks look like? Do I take the kids to school, or do I only pick them up from school at the end of the day? Am I expected to give them showers or to cook them dinner, help them with their homework, or is that something that the parents do every day? It's also a good idea to ask about time off. So do I work weekends or do I have weekends off? Do I have vacation time, and if so, when is my vacation time? A lot of families usually know in advance when they'll be taking vacation, so I think this is really important to talk about ahead of time so that you know just how much vacation you have and what days you'll be on vacation. My family gave me all my vacation days for the whole year before I arrived there, which I really liked because then I knew when I was working and when I was off, and I was able to plan my vacation days ahead of time. So that was really helpful, and I think that's something that's very important to ask. Next question is, what language do you speak at home? So this one kind of sounds like a no-brainer. Like, obviously if I'm moving to a foreign country, I'm going to teach the kids English or my language, and they're going to teach me their language. But this is not always the case. I have had friends who came to France as an au pair, and the family that they work for speaks only in English. So she never had the opportunity to practice the language or progress at all, and this wasn't something that she asked about in the interview, so this all could have been avoided if she would have just asked about this beforehand. It can seem kind of redundant or maybe not necessary, but just double check with your family and make sure you're on the same page if learning the language of the country is something that's high on your priority list, which it should be if you're moving to a new country, but just double check to make sure. The fourth question you should ask, what are my main duties? Am I just expected to take care of the kids, or am I expected to do cooking as well? And if so, am I cooking for the whole family, or am I only cooking for the kids? Am I expected to do laundry? Am I expected to clean the kitchen, to wash the dishes, walk the dog? Are there any outside duties that are expected of me other than just taking care of the kids? Fifth question is, what do you like to do as a family? I like to ask this question because it kind of gives you an idea of what kind of family they are. Do they like to do activities together on the weekend, or do they like to stay home more often? Do they spend time together at all? Some families work a lot, and during the weekends they just like to stay home and the parents do their thing and the kids play on their own. So I think this is an important question to ask to kind of get to know the personalities of each family member and what their interests are and what they like to do. Number 6 is, what is your discipline style? Now this can be kind of an awkward question to ask, but I also think it's very important because the way that a family disciplines their child will affect the experience that you have with the child. For example, if the family disciplines their children by taking away privileges, like you can't play on the iPad or you can't watch TV if you don't listen, then you know that you'll be able to use that as your discipline style when you're with the kids. This is also very important because it kind of gives you an idea of if the family disciplines their children or not and how strict or not strict they are. And that will definitely affect your time with them, because if the family doesn't discipline their kids, then the kids know that if their parents don't even discipline them and they don't see their parents as authority, then they're definitely not going to see you as an authority figure. It's very important to establish that authority so that the children know that when you're working, you are in charge, and when the parents are home, the parents are in charge. It's very important to have this discussion to make sure both the au pair and the family are on the same page, because you really want to make sure that you put yourself in a position to be respected by the children. And oftentimes, if the children know that you tell them they can't do one thing and then they go and ask their parents and their parents allow them to do it, then it creates kind of a power imbalance, and then they won't see you as an authority figure, and they'll know they don't have to respect you or listen to you, because you and the way you discipline and the way the family disciplines are not the same. So that's a very important conversation to have. It can be a little awkward asking people how they discipline their kids, but in the end, it's going to work out in your favor. Number 7, what do you eat, and do you have any dietary restrictions? So normally the au pair will eat meals with the family, sometimes breakfast, sometimes not, but most of the time, if not always, they'll eat dinners together. So it's really important to have this conversation and specify any dietary restrictions you may have, and ask them what meals they typically like to eat, what things they don't eat, etc., because you might not like the things that they eat, or you might have allergies or certain things that you cannot eat. So it's really important to make that apparent, because not all families want to accommodate someone who has severe allergies or dietary restrictions. So it's really important to have that talk ahead of time so that you know you won't have any problems with meals. Number 8, how often will I babysit? This is a good question to ask as well. Of course, there's going to be times when they ask you to babysit last minute or something comes up. You can't always plan for every event that will happen, but generally au pair families ask for 1 to 2 nights per week of babysitting, so that's usually the standard, but of course it can be more, it can be less, but it's a good idea to have this conversation ahead of time just so you have some sort of idea of how often you'll be babysitting. Number 9, how much pocket money will I receive? So again, talking about money can sometimes be awkward or intimidating, but it's important to have this conversation before you start. Of course, being an au pair is not something you do for the money, it's more something you do for the experience, but still, you have to have some kind of pocket money while you're there, so you definitely need to lay this out ahead of time so you both know how much you will be making and what days you'll be paid on. It can be awkward sometimes if your host family forgets to pay you and you don't really know, if you haven't talked about a specific date that you get paid on, you don't really want to bring it up. So it's important to just lay it all out, define how much you'll be paid, what days you'll be paid, so that there's no miscommunication or forgetting to pay you on time. Also, it's important to ask what's included in your salary. So of course, most au pairs get a pocket money every week or every month, and then there are also other things included like transportation pass, some families pay for a phone bill, health insurance, of course, they should be taken care of, and little things like that. If you're out with the kids and the kids want something, you're not expected to pay for that, so there should also be maybe a set aside amount of money that you take with you when you have the kids, and you can get something for the kids with that money if you're out and they want something. So that's another thing to talk about. It's not just about the monthly salary, but there's also other things you need to worry about being included as well. Number 10, how far is the house from the city center? This one is very important, especially in Paris, because there are a lot of au pair families that are actually in the suburbs of Paris and not so much in the center of the city, and not all of these families actually disclose that on their profiles when they are looking for an au pair. So sometimes they'll say 10 minutes from the city center or 20 minutes from the city center, but in reality it's a little bit farther than that, and sometimes you have to take a train and a bus and then the metro to get into the city center, and it ends up taking 45 minutes to an hour. So it's really important to ask this question, and also I would get the name of their city or maybe their neighborhood and Google this as well, because they might not always be truthful just about how far away they live from the city. So this is important to know, especially if you plan on going out and visiting the city. You need to know how you're going to get to the city and how you're going to get back, especially if you go out at night and you have to figure out how long it's going to take you to get back and what your transportation options are. Number 11, do you have a curfew? This one is a very good question to ask, because like I said, if you plan on going out and exploring the city, you want to make sure that you feel comfortable doing that and you don't have to worry about coming home at a certain time or having to be super quiet when you come home. I've had friends who've had host families that got upset if they came home late at night, even if they were being super quiet and they didn't disturb anyone, but they got upset that they were out late at night, and she felt really awkward coming home because she could sense that the parents didn't feel comfortable with her going out, and that can create kind of an awkward situation. So it's a good idea to have this talk beforehand and see just what they expect, if they're okay with you going out and coming home at whatever time, or if you need to be home at a certain time. I would definitely have this conversation ahead of time. And the 12th question you should ask your host family, what do they like about you? So as much as this is the host family interviewing you, you are also interviewing this family. So it's a good idea to ask them, what do they like about you? What was it about you or your profile that caught their attention? And I think asking this question kind of gives you a good idea of how much they've really paid attention to you or put thought into having you as their au pair. Did they actually look at your profile and choose you because there was something about you that they liked? Or are they just messaging out a bunch of people and seeing who responds? So this is a good question to ask to kind of get a feel for what they're looking for and what exactly they like about you that they think you can bring to their family. So now you are all set to have a successful first Skype date with your potential host family. Now that you've gotten all the important questions out of the way, you won't have to worry about any miscommunication or mishaps that you maybe didn't talk about in the interview before you arrive with you who are in the beginning process of becoming an au pair. I have another video that details the step-by-step process of becoming an au pair in France from start to finish. So definitely go check that video out after this one to make sure you are checking off all the boxes and making sure you have everything in order to make your process to becoming an au pair as smooth as possible. As always, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I wish you a very happy au pair family search, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!